What's up, everybody? GeauxBurns doing a trailer breakdown for The Heist, the brand new Mafia 3 trailer that dropped today at Gamescom 2016. And what's interesting is the Mafia 3 reveal trailer dropped a year ago, August 5th, also at Gamescom. And if you want to check out the trailer yourself, it is linked below in the description section. And for all my Mafia 3 content, be sure and check out my Mafia playlist right up here. Okay, so let's get into it, shall we? The first scene of The Heist is obviously the pavement. A couple of cigarette butts, someone having a few cigs, a few cancer sticks in anticipation. I guess they're waiting for somebody and they're kind of nervous, so they need a little smoke break in order to calm the nerves. And then, of course, an armored truck pulls up, and it looks like this is the French ward, with a sweet-looking full moon in the background in New Bordeaux, 1968. The guy walks up to the armored truck, and a piece of paper is handed to him. And obviously, he is a security guard. And you can see who the driver is by the mirror. Yes, it is Lincoln Clay. He is driving this huge armored truck. And the security guard tells him to pull around back. So obviously, whatever's happening here, the security guard is in on it. Or at the very least, he's been bribed, coerced, blackmailed into helping Lincoln Clay out. And I think this is at the Federal Reserve in New Bordeaux. All right, so the armored truck pulls around back to this empty parking lot. And as it pulls up, you will notice that it's not just Lincoln Clay. It's also Georgie Marcano, who is Sal Marcano's son. And they're dressed like security guards. And obviously, I don't think they're actually having a legitimate job here. I think that they're up to something. I think they're in disguise. I could be wrong about that. But I think Lincoln and Georgie are not really security guards. Then again, I could be wrong. And of course, someone starts cracking this safe. Now, the question is Georgie expert safe cracker, or did somebody at the Federal Reserve happen to give Georgie the code in order to break open the door to this big giant safe at the Federal Reserve? So I don't know. I mean, it could be one thing, it could be the other thing, but chances are I'm willing to bet, since he doesn't have the proper instruments for safe cracking, that someone just simply gave Georgie or someone else the numbers in order to open the safe. And of course, you see a radio, and it's talking about a heist happening in progress at the Federal Reserve, and there are 4 suspects at large, 2 of which, of course, are Georgie and Lincoln. So there's 2 other suspects involved in the heist as well. This is obviously at Sal Marcano's residence in his office, because you see this photo of Sal Marcano and maybe one of his brothers or somebody very important to Sal Marcano. And pacing in the background in that pink suit, Lou Marcano. Yes, only Lou Marcano could get away with such an awesome looking sports jacket. So obviously he's pacing around back and forth, probably kind of nervous about what's transpiring. And then, of course, Sal Marcano turns off the radio. And then Lincoln Clay is opening this big, giant safe door, and Georgie and Lincoln walk inside to all this money inside the Federal Reserve, which is probably what they've come for, a nice little withdrawal. And then, of course, Sal Marcano is apparently, talking to several other people in this room besides Lou, and he says that there's going to be a lot of heat coming down for what's being pulled off tonight at the Federal Reserve. And then, of course, an up-close shot at Sal Marcano, the main antagonist of Mafia 3. And the scene pans back to the Federal Reserve, and look at all that money. Nice, very, very nice. And of course, they're divvying up the money, putting it into bags. And of course, this is Olivia Marcano. And she's basically just telling Sal Marcano to relax. Just take it easy, relax, because a lot of people, including Sal and Lou, are kind of nervous about what is transpiring at the Federal Reserve, and of course the ramifications as well as the heat that's going to come down, as a result of this major heist. And then, of course, the alarm goes off at the Federal Reserve, and Lincoln looks back at this young man, Georgie, and he says, what does he say? Oh, he says that they're going to pull this off with a nice, friendly, innocent smile. And then, of course, Lincoln looks forward with optimism as he bashes a security guard against the wall. And, of course, Georgie and Lincoln get into a nice little firefight as they make their escape from the Federal Reserve in New Bordeaux. With a nice big explosion, probably from the other two people involved in the heist. And of course, it has another scene here. And of course, once again, Lincoln Clay is running and gunning through the Federal Reserve, trying to make his way out, him along with Georgie. And what's interesting is that there's two different weapons that Lincoln Clay is using here. This weapon, and of course, a slightly bigger machine gun right there. So obviously, you'll be switching up weapons throughout this heist, going from a little light firepower, which is that, to something a little bit heavier, like that, for example. Okay, so anyways, they're making their big escape, and it looks like they have made it out to the water. That looks like water, a tunnel perhaps underneath New Bordeaux. And let's see, Georgie is climbing up a ladder, and above is a nice little party happening, maybe some Mardi Gras action on the streets of New Bordeaux in the French ward. And you got Lincoln carrying somebody. You have Georgie. You have another member of the crew. And I think he is Ellis. I believe this is Ellis. That's Ellis, I think. Of course, Georgie, Lincoln, and the fourth member of their crew. I don't know who this is, but you can see one of the patches he has on his outfit says Burke's Iron and Metal. And of course, Georgie gives Lincoln a pistol, and Lincoln puts it in the air and pulls the trigger. I guess to cause a distraction, because I guess the police are still after, Georgie and Lincoln and Ellis, and they got to get away from the cops. So the best thing to do it is to cause a panic in the middle of the French ward in Mardi Gras at night when everyone's partying and reveling and drinking. You pull out a gun, open fire, and everyone just whoosh, goes crazy like cattle, and it makes it more difficult for the police to catch those culprits responsible for the heist. And of course, this pans forward to somebody walking in on Sal Marcano, Olivia, Lou, and a fourth person in the background. Now, this may be Sal's other brother. I don't know what his name is, but I believe this is the other Marcano. So you got Olivia, you have Sal, you have Lou, and of course, walking in on them is, well, we'll show you in a minute. Wrong screenshot. And of course, obviously, Sal is very happy with who's walking in. And I think pretty much you've guessed by now who it is. Yes, it is Georgie Marcano walking back, quite satisfied with himself after successfully carrying out the heist. Now, what's interesting is he's wearing the security guard uniform in this scene, right? But if we back up, obviously, they're not wearing security guard uniforms in this scene. They're just wearing normal clothes. So it begs the question, like in Grand Theft Auto 5, will you have several ways to carry out this heist? Can you go in as security guards, or can you go in a different route? So it's quite interesting that at the beginning he's wearing a security guard outfit, and then they pan over to the French ward. He's not wearing a security guard outfit. Well, at least I guess maybe the bottom part still might be the security guard outfit. I don't know for sure, but I don't think so, because I think they're just wearing normal clothes. But then all of a sudden he shows up at his dad's house wearing the security guard uniform. So maybe, just maybe, this means that there's going to be at least two options that you can take in order to pull off the heist. Very similar to how you do in Grand Theft Auto 5 story. And then, of course, you see a pan at all the money that was taken from the heist. And I'm guessing Sal asked Olivia, Lou, and perhaps his other brother to give him and Georgie the room for a moment, because now, he's having a nice drink, because Sal offered Georgie a drink. He says, look like you could use a drink. And while Georgie's enjoying his victory drink, Sal is talking about how he needs to go ahead and get dressed because he wants to go over to Sammy's and collect their cut of the money. And of course, Georgie has this strange look in his face, because I think his dad has a little bit more planned than just simply going over and, shaking everybody's hands, hugs, high fives, fist bumps, and simply just taking his cut and walking out. So anyways, you see Sammy counting the money on the bar at Sammy's. And of course, in the background, you have Ellis, you have Lincoln celebrating, and the fourth member of the heist crew. Now, is this a friend of Lincoln Clay's from maybe the Vietnam War? I honestly do not know, but he was the fourth member of the heist, as I believe that Ellis was the third member of the heist. So anyways, you have what appears to be Sammy breaking up the money, divvying it up between the different groups. And obviously the big stack is probably going to go to Sal Marcano. So one of these stacks will probably go to some of the other groups involved in the heist. So now, basically, Sal Marcano is asking Georgie, is he with him, on what he's about to go do at Sammy's. And of course, at the moment, it seems like Georgie's having kind of a conflict right here, because I think that there's going to be some sort of friendship between Georgie and Lincoln. But at the end of the day, I think Georgie is going to fall in line with what his father wants to be done. And of course, they're still partying, having a good time, celebrating at Sammy's, some drinking, and hopefully we'll learn more about him later on. Well, in October, probably, when Mafia 3 comes out. And of course, you see Sammy here, and he says this is more than money, it's freedom. That's what he says. So maybe the money and being involved with this heist was a way for Sammy and the Black Mob to, get some sort of independence from the Marcano crime family. But anyways, there's a couple really cool shots of Mardi Gras transpiring, or some sort of carnival happening in the French Ward in New Bordeaux that I thought I would include because they looked really cool. And of course, Georgie is being pressed by his father, saying, I need you with me, I need you to help me. And of course, Georgie is on board. Even if he does have some sort of friendship or bond with Lincoln, at the end of the day, family comes first when it comes to Georgie Marcano. He's going to stand by his father over his friend any day of the week. And of course, here is another example of why I think that we might be able to have some options when it comes to the heists. Because obviously now they're in a boat. And that could have been because they broke out of the bank from below. And they've gotten a boat and they're being chased. And another scene of Ellis having a little drink, having a good time. And then here's another interesting scene. Okay, so a moment ago we saw a scene where they're in the boat. And now they're in a car. And, they're breaking through this fence. And they're being obviously chased by the police. So once again, I'm convinced that there might be two ways about doing the heist, where you can go into security guards, or you can try and sneak in from underneath and kind of like blow open the heist and enter from below, and maybe you can escape via boat or car, or maybe all this is simply just tied together. And back at Sammy's bar, Sammy looks at the door because somebody has just walked inside, and it's none other than Sal Marcano wanting them to pour one more drink for him. So he's coming in acting all friendly, cleaned up, kind of like congratulating everybody on their job well done. And Sammy and the others think that he's simply coming to get his cut of the score. And of course, another shot of the boat fleeing down the tunnel, the waterways beneath New Bordeaux. And then the scene comes back where, Sal Marcano's congratulating everybody on a job well done. And, everybody, is none the wiser about what Sal and Giorgio is up to here. But unfortunately, the moment Sal gives Georgie this look after hugging and kissing Sammy, yep. And that's the heist trailer. Once again, link below in the description section. And shout out to LANYC. 3 weeks ago, he said this: I'm sure Sal Marcano gave Sammy Robinson the contract to do the heist. If you pay attention to the scene in the One Way Road trailer, the celebration where Lincoln, Sammy, and Ellis are having a drink, there's a large amount of money on the bar. So it's a good chance that Sal killed him off and took all of the paper. And for the most part, it seems like that is the reason why Sal Marcano killed Sammy Ellis, murdered most of the Black Mob, and left Lincoln Clay for dead. But I think the larger reason is from what was said at the beginning of the heist trailer, where Sal's like, there's going to be a lot of heat on this. And basically, it really wasn't as much about the money issue as to have a scapegoat, somebody to blame it on, i.e. Sammy Robinson, Ellis, and the Black Mob, especially since two of the culprits, or perhaps even three of the culprits, allegedly die in the fire at Sammy's, which include Sammy and the fourth member of the heist team. I doubt he was left alive. And then, of course, Lincoln Clay, who obviously wasn't killed and comes back with terrible vengeance against the Sal Marcano crime family for not only attempting to kill him, but also murdering Sal, Ellis, and the rest of the Black Mob. And we'll find out how it all goes down on October 7th when Mafia 3 comes to Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC.